Today, I'm going to be reviewing the 41 tenets of the most controversial figure at the moment, Andrew Tate. Let's see if these tenets are misogynistic or if they make sense. Let's jump into it. First one, I believe that men have the divine imperative to become as capable, powerful, and competent as possible in this life. Men and women are different. According to evolutionary psychology books, men and women do not compete for the same things. If you ask 100 women in the street, what are you looking for in terms of your partner? They will probably say they are looking for capable, powerful, and competent men. That's the majority of women. Of course, there are some women that do not care about these traits, but most women do. So it makes sense that he highlights this point. Secondly, I reserve the right to hold my own beliefs and practice them as I see fit. And I allow all other people the same right to believe and act as they wish. That's a fair point, and I like the aspect where you do not have to tramp on other people's liberty. 3. I prefer loving and rewarding consensual relationship with beautiful, positive, and virtuous women. That's one of the points that has been discussed in the Piers Morgan interview, where he articulated his point about he preferred younger women. Really, when you hear the argument, he does prefer virtuous women. And for me, that's fine. It's much more interesting to invest in people that can avoid short-term pleasure and invest long-term. 4. I believe men and women are different and each have their own unique strengths and abilities. Yes, totally agree. Men can't have children, for example. Men can't make money on OnlyFans. You might have one man making money, but most men can't make money on OnlyFans just by showing their bodies. Women most of the time will go into clubs, nightclubs for free when men have to pay. And men are much stronger than women physically. So each of them are different. And I totally agree with this point. 5th, I believe that men have the sacred duty to protect and provide for the important people in their lives. That's an old way of saying things, a more conservative way of saying things. But when you actually observe what women do, usually they will not tolerate a man that does not earn money. Usually, most of the time, they will not tolerate a man that earns less money than them. Most of the women will say, I want a man on my level. It means that he has to earn at least as much as she earns. Secondly, men have always been obligated to protect their family. And even now, even with gender equality, men have still the same obligation. If someone comes to attack your family, you have to be the one in the front line to protect them. That's for sure. If you do not, it won't be a surprise if your woman leaves you in the next few days. I believe men have the sacred duty to protect the innocence and sanctity of their children and reserve the right and responsibility to raise their children as they see best to ensure their long-term happiness and success. More and more we are seeing governments, the school, or other people taking away parents' rights. For me, it's very critical because parents really love their children and usually they will always try to give their best. So it's important that the parent is involved in the kids' education in terms of how these kids is being raised, but also how the education system works and what type of value they will teach to the kids. 7. I believe that men have the sacred duty to raise strong, capable, and honorable sons. Of course, this comes back to the evolutionary psychology books. Women tend to prefer men that are capable and competent. If you ask most of the women in the street, they will tell you that they want someone that is ambitious and competent. And that's not something that is uncommon. Most of the non-Western countries are looking for the same type of competence. Even if you consider outside of the human realms, animals tend to compete, especially men tend to compete for females. Raising strong, capable men is quite important. I believe that men have the sacred duty to raise kind, feminine, and virtuous daughters. That's basically just the difference between men and women. Men value certain things, certain type of qualities in women. Women will value other type of qualities in men. When it comes to men choosing women, most men will prefer a woman that is virtuous, if they have the choice. When they don't have the choice, they pick whatever they can. But when they do have the choice, men will favor virtuous women. They will also favor feminine women. The opposite attract themselves. So if you're a very masculine man, you will usually be attracted to very feminine women. If you are not that feminine of a woman, you might not be attracted to so much of a masculine man. And there are quite a lot of studies that support the fact that promiscuous women have a very hard time to pair bond with men. 9. I utterly disapprove of violence in romantic or familiar relationships. Yes, violence has no place in the society, no place in the family. We should try as much as possible to remove violence in most of our interactions. Violence has to be the last resort. When people physically attack you, you should be able to be violent back to the people attacking you physically. Make sure that you're not the first one being violent. Being violent has dreadful consequences. 10. I support good and honest governments, and I will obey only their laws. That's a tough one. Why? Because sometimes, like what has happened with the pandemic situation, the governments are taking away a lot of liberties. Of course, you should always try to obey the law. That's mandatory. But there will be time where if the government are taking away liberties, they are taking away freedom, that some civil disobedience might be required. If you think about what had happened in the Second World War, especially in France, my home country, there are a lot of people that collaborated with Nazis because they were fearful of the law. They obeyed the law. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's always the right thing to do. So be careful about this. 11. I prefer to only conduct business dealing with trusted and vetted brothers. Yeah, of course. Anyone that has had to deal with other people in business, anyone that has been an entrepreneur or that has businesses, know that it's very important for you to deal with trusted people, honest people. At the end of the day, the bond that you're creating between you and your client, you and your partner in business, has to be based on trust and honesty. If you do not, very quickly, people are going to stop dealing with you. People are going to stop interacting with you because you can't trust a liar. As simple as that. 12. I believe that a man has the sacred duty to hold true to his word and do exactly what he says he will do. Yes, spot on. Men have to be honest and congruent with their words. If you say that you're going to do something, you have to be a man of your words. That's very critical. And that's going to be very essential in all type of interaction. Whether you're working with someone, whether you're in a relationship, whether you're with your friends. In all situations, you have to be honest and congruent with your words. 13. I believe that man's life is difficult and he has the sacred duty to become strong to handle such difficulty. Yes, men and women are different. And the man's duties are different than the woman's duties. And what is required of a man is different than what is required of a woman. If you cannot provide for your family, you will have a very hard time to find a partner. Initially, men do not have a lot of value, but they have to build their value. They have to achieve something. They have to work. They have to earn money in order to have value for women. As you are building value, as you are going through a lot of hard situations, you have the duty to overcome your fears. You have the duty to handle the difficulties of life. 14. I believe men are personally responsible for their actions and for the results they achieve in their lives. A lot of the people that you are interacting on the daily basis will be telling you that it's all about skills, luck, and talent. Most people that are at the top are not always the most talented. Some people had to really work really hard to get there. In few words, do not be a victim. Be accountable for your choices and your decisions and the consequences of your decisions. 15. I believe in emotional control and the vital need to become disciplined and professional in all things. Yes, you have to control your emotions. Control your emotions, that's very important. Everyone has a dark side. This dark side has to be integrated with ourselves. And you have to be in charge of your emotions. As Jordan Peterson said, become a dangerous man, but be in control of this dangerous man. 16. I believe men have the sacred duty to approach everything in life with a position of strength. Yes, being strong is only positive. Being strong is so important in life. Being weak is very negative. I'm not saying that you should never be vulnerable. Vulnerability is okay, but do not be weak. Be strong in all things. Strong in your decisions, strong in the person you choose to marry, strong in the type of kids you want to raise, strong husband, strong friend, strong professional. All the time, very strong. 17. I believe that all men have the sacred duty to become men of upright and virtuous character and live above all reproach. Yes, it comes back to honesty and being congruent with your words. Be in line between what you think, what you do, and what you say. 18. I believe it is incumbent upon me to ruthlessly identify my weaknesses and limitations and eagerly work to overcome them and become capable in all realms. Everyone has weaknesses. Only the people that can acknowledge and improve their weaknesses will be able to go to the next level. Because everyone has flaws. Everyone has situations where they are not that competent. Whether it is public speaking, whether it is to communicate efficiently, whatever the situations, you have weaknesses and flaws, and you have to improve them every day. 19. I seek to improve my personal freedom to think, act, and live true to my masculine imperative in all ways. Yes, personal freedom is critical. It's mandatory in my opinion. You should be able to decide what you want. And this is why, for example, when you go to hospital and you have an issue, you go to A&E or you go to an emergency service. In all situations, the doctor needs your approval for the procedure, except if you're not able to give it. But in most situations, the doctor will ask, are you okay with this procedure? Because in life, there's rarely one solution. Most of the time, you will have multiple solutions. 20. I believe each man has the sacred duty to mold his physical body into the strongest, more resilient, and most capable version of itself possible. Yes, as we say, strong body, strong mind. If you have a strong body, if you have a great body, it's because you have been dedicated. And it's not the body that makes you such a great person, but it is the dedication that goes behind it. It means that you have been dedicated to probably go to the gym on a regular basis. You have been dedicated to watch what you eat. You have been dedicated to be consistent and disciplined all the time in order to obtain this type of body. These are the qualities that are required in order to be successful as well in life. If you do not have these qualities, the discipline, the courage, and the consistency is going to be very complicated to you to be successful in business and also in relationship. 21. I believe that men have the sacred duty to rigorously train themselves both physically and mentally every day. It comes back to the previous point. In order to be strong mentally, you have to be strong physically. Because your body is going to stay with you until you die. So you might as well accept it instead of rejecting it. 22nd. I believe that I have the sacred duty to only eat the highest quality foods possible. As you know, there's a crisis. There's a testosterone and sperm count crisis in most of the countries, especially in the Western countries. Let me unpack it. In the past 20, 30, 40 years, we have seen a decline in terms of testosterone level. We have seen a decline in terms of sperm count in between men. And obviously this is reflecting in the way people are. If you compare the physical performance of the people back in the day, if you compare their abilities to be strong physically, they were much stronger than most men these days. Of course, the very top men have improved. because of the science, because of the discipline, because of the routine that have been put in place based on science. But the average person have seen their testosterone and strength decline dramatically. And hopefully we will be able to overcome it in the next few years. But first, most people are not aware of it. Secondly, we have to overcome it by developing strength and resilience and also have a better diet. 23rd, I reserve the right to protect the sanctity of my bloodstream and make my own decisions about my own medical care and procedures. That's the point I was referring earlier. Doctors require acceptance of the treatment before the treatment is given to the patient. Similarly, there was an interesting story. This story of Jane. So Jane was working in a hotel as a cleaner. And what she did is she stole the used condom of a businessman that was in the room that she was cleaning. She actually saw the bank statements on the table and concluded that this man is very rich. So what she did, she went, and not only she went into the room, not only she went into the bathroom, but she stole the condom that was used and she impregnated herself. She had a baby, and a few years after, she sued the man for child support. And guess what happened? She won. And the rich man was condemned to pay 2 million for the 3 years that he has missed of his son. Can you imagine this happening to you? How unfair is it? He should be the one suing her for using his DNA against his will. But she's the one suing him and he has to pay on top of that. That's crazy. We live in a crazy world. 24. I affirm the importance of endlessly improving my mental faculties through diligent work, study, and practice. So this is very similar to the number 21. Of course, you have to improve every day. You have to have your routine and you have to have your daily practice. If you do not practice physically, if you do not practice mentally, you won't be able to compete with the top men. That's for sure. Number 25. I believe in acquiring wealth in abundance in order to improve my life and do good for those I care about. So many times we hear about stories where rich people are unfair, rich people are bad, rich people are selfish. But you have to understand that wealth is not a zero-sum game. It's not because someone became rich that you can't become rich. A lot of people can become rich at the same time. A lot of people can acquire wealth at the same time. It doesn't mean because your neighbor is earning a lot of money that you also cannot earn a lot of money. It's not a zero-sum game. And you have to stay away from this mentality of zero-sum game. It's not because your neighbor, your friend, your brother is making money that you cannot make money. They haven't stolen the money from you. Secondly, when it comes to protecting your family, it's very important you understand that protection also involves financial security. If you want to protect your family, for example, you will buy a house in a safe neighborhood. And also, if you want to protect them and you do love them, you want to be able, when push comes to shove, to afford the expensive medical care. If one of your family members is in a very intense emergency situation, and you want to afford the most expensive treatment, the best treatment for your family, so you have to have enough money to afford it. So accumulate as much wealth as you can, and then you can protect your family accordingly. 26. I believe in the merits of healthy competition and constantly encouraging all men to seek out competition to improve themselves. Yes, men are competitive by nature. If you observe girls, very young girls, if you observe very young boys, you will see that boys always compete. And that's way earlier than any type of social interaction, any type of social convention or teaching. Boys are competitive by nature. If you want a boy to be able to have great results, you have to dare them. And it's also interesting, most of the men that I grew up with and that are somehow successful are always bad losers. They are always extremely competitive. Of course, with time, they have learned to control this character trait, but by default, When they were kids, they were extremely bad losers. And now, because of this competitiveness, they are able to challenge themselves and they always want to be the best. In order to be the best, they will do everything required in order to be successful. And that's what competition is about, especially in a capitalist world. 27. I believe that masculine brotherhood is essential to men's mental health, happiness, and success. And I relentlessly encourage men to meet together, train together, and work together. Yes, that's one of the things that we have lost. And that's probably what is driving a lot of men to early terminate their life. Communities. Communities, we used to have communities of brotherhood back in the day. We used to have communities where men could come together. Similarly, we used to have communities where women could come together. Women still have quite a few friends around, but men get isolated quite quickly. Men tend to be lonesome. A lot of the men's activity usually revolve around video game or watching TV, things that are actually quite isolating. So it's very important if you're a man and you don't feel that well, you're depressed, that you seek the company of other men. You need to seek a community. You need to be around other men because men are going through the same type of things. And I know it's very hard. If you're looking for some community, feel free to join my community, drop me a message or comment on the video. 28. I maintain the trust of my brothers through reverent silence regarding our most secret and shared experiences. Yes, you should not betray your friend. You should keep your secrets together. You have to be able to keep your friend's secrets. If someone has told you something that is very personal, you should be able to keep it for yourself. You shouldn't have to disclose it to all the world, to your partner, to your friends, to your family, and so on. You have to be able to keep your secrets. Obviously, I'm not saying that if someone has committed a crime, if someone has been inappropriate, you should keep it for yourself. Of course not. But if someone has given you a secret that is an okay secret, then you should be able to keep it. 29. I believe in honoring my ancestors and living in a way that would make them most proud of me today. Yes, why not? I mean, to each their own, but I think ancestors would like masculine men. Ancestors would like strong masculine men. Men that can provide and protect their family. I think that's what used to happen, and I think if you live in this way, your ancestors are going to be very proud of you. 30. I reserve the right to administer difficult rites of passage for our young men to allow them to earn them the rank of manhood. If you think about it, back in the day, there used to be rite of passage between the childhood and the adulthood, between the boy and the man. All of the men around them in the community will give them to test them to see if they are competent men. In order to survive in life, in order to be able to find a partner, you have to be a competent man. And this type of rites was to evaluate and assess such skills. 31. I affirm the importance and need to travel and adventure as men. Yes, too many people are stuck in an echo chamber. They always stay in the same country, they always stay in the same city, they never discover what happens, what occurs in the rest of the world, and they are stuck in this type of mentality. If you do not know how the world works, you have to travel. You have to discover what happens when you go to African countries. You have to understand what happens when you go to European or American countries. You have to go all the way to Asia as well. You have to be able to understand how the different cultures interact and how the people live differently. Maybe you will integrate some of the way of living of other countries. 32. I seek to help men overcome poor mental health through embracing hard work, physical improvement, and shared masculine brotherhood. It's well documented that physical activity, good sleep, good diet is as effective as any type of depression drugs. So if you want to become better, and also that's probably more sustainable in the long run, just make sure that you are taking care of your body properly. That's the first point. Secondly, you also have to make sure that you surround yourself with the right type of men. The men that can elevate you. Men that are hardworking, honest people, not the complainers, not the whiners, not the victims. You have to be surrounded by good men. 33. I reserve the right to make the best choices I can at the time to protect my self-respect and mental health. Yes, I think that's a prerogative of the individual. If that's what he values, then why not? As soon as he doesn't tramp on other people's liberty, then that's fine for me. 34. I do good in the world and seek to help those less fortunate than myself. When you do good, you shouldn't have to advertise it. So many people, as soon as they do a good action, they have to advertise it everywhere. On social media, all you hear is that, oh, I've donated that much money, or I picked up the garbage on this beach, or I've welcomed one of the refugees. Why do you have to broadcast the information? Why do you have to broadcast the news? If you've done something good, just keep it for yourself. It's very important that people do good actions, because we live in a world where people are more and more selfish, unfortunately. And what happens is that the government is taking the responsibility to distribute your money to less fortunate people. When back in the day, when people used to live in communities, people were helping each other by default, and that was natural to them. 35. I believe all men have the responsibility to lead and guide those they care for the greater health, prosperity, and happiness. Yes, when you love, you want what is best for the people around you. You want them to be in good health, you want them to be happy, you probably want them to make a lot of money so they have the freedom to choose their future. That's all true. And honestly, it's not about the money, as I said earlier. It's about the mindset that you need to acquire the money. You want to surround yourself with the people with the same type of mindset. 36. I choose to only interact with those who are respectful and civil in return for my own respect and civility. Yes, there are way too many people that are virtue signaling all the time. They are pretending that they are good people, they are pretending that they care about the less fortunate, but the way they interact is very aggressive, it's very nasty. And when you can behave in a very demeaning manner to your enemies, it probably means that you're not such a great person. You have to consider other people's opinion, other people's perspective, and be respectful in all situations, even if you do not agree. 37. I reserve the freedom to speak and refer to others as I believe is best and most truthful. I think that's quite a controversial one because of the trans debate at the moment. But I think it's important that most of our interactions are based on the truth. Otherwise, it's very easy to fall into this type of totalitarian regimes where everything is totally controlled by the government. You can think about the book 1984. If you haven't read it, I recommend you to read it. It's a fascinating book. 38. I reserve the right to choose my company and include only those whom I believe are best for my health, happiness, and success. As I said in previous videos, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you want to be able to grow as an individual, if you want to be able to have good values, you have to be surrounded by the same type of people. But be careful not to end up in echo chamber. So expose yourself to contrary point of view all the time. 39. I believe I have an imperative to only spend my time in a way I determine is beneficial, uplifting, and empowering to myself and others. Yes, time is the most precious resource. So use it wisely. Do not spend your time doing useless things. Do not spend your time with useless people. People that do not care about your future, that are just going to extract resources or attention from you. 40. I choose to only allow myself to be influenced by those who I believe have my best interest at mind. You have to be surrounded by the right type of people. When you receive a new information, you have 3 options. First one is to accept. Second one is to reject. And thirdly is to challenge. What I recommend is that you use these 3 options wisely. When you receive a new information, process it. And then after processing it, compare it with the data that you have. maybe with research that you have already. And then you can either accept, reject, or challenge. 41. Each day, I dedicate myself anew to create the greatest possible positive impact on the world and do the work to achieve greater masculine excellence across all realms of human behavior. I think these are very wise words. In conclusion, what do I think about the 41 tenets of Andrew Tate? I think most of them are spot on. I have very little reproach to give on these tenets. I probably wouldn't agree on all of them, but most of them are uplifting and pushing men to become better. If more men will embrace such value, we will probably be in a better society where people are being honest and people are really working hard to become better every single day. It's not only about accepting people as they are. Of course, you need to accept immutable characteristics. For example, what type of skin color someone has, what type of race, what type of height. But all the characteristics that can be changed have to be challenged. And you have to push yourself, especially as a man, to become more and more competent every single day. To go a bit further, check out the 5 qualities that all high-value men have. That's a great video. Do not miss it.